Here we are. Must be 5 or 6 days later now. Melbourne has not played ball with the weather, so we had a really slow cure. I believe it is nice and cured now, but we won't know until we pull it out of the mold. As we mentioned earlier when I did the second pour, mistakes have been made, where the coffee beans weren't fully set when we did the second pour and it raised to the top. So what we're going to do is this final piece will be upside down, so the coffee beans will be on the bottom, and we'll thickness and finish the other side from what we can see looking into our mold. I guess the next step now is to pop the mold open and get it out. The title of this video series was Resin Pours and how they can go wrong and what we did to fix it. Now, mine definitely went wrong, and I think I've come up with a final piece that I'm relatively happy with. Could it have been better? Of course, but at the end of the day, this is a learning experience, and I learned a lot. But I think the final piece actually turned out relatively okay. So the last thing you would have seen of mine was the second pour, where we didn't have enough time to properly let it sit and therefore have the coffee beans suspend in the middle of the pour and then pour a layer on top, and they all rose to the top. This led to kind of an awkward situation where we had a final piece where all the coffee beans were up one end, not in the middle, and how do we finish that? So I tried a number of things to fix it. The first one I did was I took it home for the weekend, cranked the heater for 72 hours and poured myself maybe about a 2mm top coat in the hope that we could polish it back, we could sand it back, polish it up and have the coffee beans at the top and it would look all right. Unfortunately, that didn't quite work the way we'd hoped. We ended up with coffee beans at the top. When you sanded it back, they still became exposed, leaving a not very nice finish. So the next step I took was to flip it over and realize that the coffee beans on the bottom actually look pretty good. So what we decided to do is sand it and sand it and sand it, and about 1,500 times over sand it. What had happened was when we fed it through the thickener, it had got lots of chips from the blades. Now that was probably my fault. I probably fed it through cutting too much at a time rather than small passes. However, either way, we still had to start with the sander. I started with an 80 grit, went 120, 160, 180, 320, all the way up to 2000 and wet sanding at 2000 grit. And that left us with a really smooth final finish. Now, at the moment it's clouding still. This is just because I haven't had a chance to go with like a cutting compound, whether it be a nice sort of, probably wouldn't use a car wax, but something along that line that will really bring up a really vibrant finish. However, when we put a bit of water on top of it, you can really see how nice the final finish of this piece is. We actually have some wax coming into the store sometime soon, and I might do a video on finishing up this piece with that wax and how to really get that final finish to go. But I think at the end, this came out 90%, let's say, of what I was expecting. And at the end of the day, we learned a lot. Number one, temperature. You got to get that room warm and you got to keep it warm. When we poured in here, the temperature overnight dropped, the resin stopped cooking, and eventually it led to longer times before we were able to do second pours. We poured when we shouldn't have. And at the end of the day, if we had just waited maybe an extra day and we weren't on a deadline, would have done well. Now the other one is patience. patience is your best friend with this stuff. If you need an extra 6 hours, give yourself the extra 6 hours. We were on a deadline, which means that we couldn't wait between pours as long as we should have. This stuff cures much slower than other resins, which is actually a benefit, not a disadvantage, where you have more time to get ready, to make sure that the next pour, the colors are right, or whatever you plan to do with it. So, time and temperature. They're your two most important factors when working with resin. Next time, hopefully we'll have a bit more time and better control of the temperature. Melbourne in the winter is never going to be a great time to pour unless you're inside your house and you can control the heater a bit more. Thanks for sticking with us. This was a really fun project and I'm looking forward to doing another one, and I'm hoping that they'll let me do another one. I'm Curtis, thanks for watching. YouTube reckons that you're going to like this video. We reckon you're going to like this video. Check it both out if you've got time.